All right, we're going to head into the last little bit of Strat HR, which is focusing on the balanced scorecard. So, a balanced scorecard is one approach that organizations can take to make sure that they are actually executing their vision, mission, and strategy as planned. So, as we know from other chapters and conversations, vision and missions are statements. They are written with words and they don't have any measures with them. So, how do you know that you're actually executing, meaning making that vision and mission work? What's your measurement of actually achieving vision, mission, and strategy? So, the balanced scorecard is one method or one tool that we can use to make sure or check whether we're actually executing vision, mission, and strategy. So, that's the point of a balanced scorecard. And the scorecard is balanced, meaning it's addressing, measuring, assessing, several different categories in an organization, such as financial as well as HR, etc. So it's not just looking at profits, it's balanced because it's looking at a lot of different categories that are contributing to the company being successful. Hence, it's a balanced scorecard. So that's what this number one is telling us over here. We have a balanced scorecard that is helping the managers of the organization define performance in many different categories that relate to the strategy. So the strategy of the organization, what is it? What performance categories come out of that? And then we can, once we have those performance categories, we can start looking at what metrics, measures, or assessments can be used to track that performance. So we are making the strategy tangible. And because we are focused on human capital and HR in this video, we are focused on what's called the HR balanced scorecard. So an HR balanced scorecard, it's specific to the human capital portion of the organization. And we have a couple of authors, Huselid, among others, that have come up with something that is a spin-off, you could say, of an organizational balanced scorecard. So sometimes we call it an HR balanced scorecard, and sometimes we also call it a workforce scorecard. And that just means that it's specific to the HR or human capital portion of the organization. So we have a workforce scorecard. All right. So this HR balanced scorecard or the workforce scorecards forms a bridge, right? It connects the strategy of an organization, which sits over here, right? The organization's overall balance scorecard strategy, it sits over here. And then down here, we have our HR unit, right? The best practices in HR, meaning the HR unit, HR professionals, and what they're doing with recruitment, selection, training, development, etc. And then these four boxes are the workforce scorecards. We have four different categories making up the workforce or the HR balanced scorecard, if you want to call it that. And these four are, with my terrible lines here. We have workforce behavior, workforce competencies, workforce mindset and culture. And if all of those are in place, we get something called workforce success. So I'm going to move to a slide that's a couple of slides down in this presentation. You have them accessible on your Canvas or school platform, which one we're using at the moment. And they are defined in this direction. So we're going to go here. So the balanced scorecard and human capital. So here are those four categories that we just saw. These four that are the bridge between HR and the organization, and they're defined as such. So the first one we have is the mindset and culture, or we can call it values. So what's the mindset? So from the employee's perspective, do you understand the organization's strategy and do you embrace it? Do you know what to do in order to implement the strategy? So on a Tuesday afternoon, are you doing things that are helping the company execute its strategy? Next one is competencies. What are those competencies that we need? The skills and abilities to get your job done. So the competencies that the organization need to make sure that we are moving towards the mission and vision. What are your leadership and workforce behaviors, meaning the behaviors, actions that both the employees and managers engage in? So are you behaving strategically? Are you doing actions, communications, again, that are moving us in a better direction? And if all those things are true, then we should see some success down here. So our mindset, values, culture, competencies, behaviors, are they tied to the performance and the success of the organization, and that we can measure through targets and goals? So that's the general gist of the HR balanced scorecard or the workforce scorecard that is tying a balanced scorecard at the organizational level into HR. And if we do all these things, there's the payoff. So we know from research that companies that actually measure things that are not obvious, such as innovation, employee satisfaction, employee performance, change, those things, they do perform better financially. They have better stock prices, maybe higher market caps, and they're seen as more solid, and hence investors are willing to invest their capital, their money into these organizations because they're just better run. If you have a better run organization, you're going to be worth more on the stock market and you're going to make more profits. So that's going to wrap it for the balanced scorecard and HR. Thank you.